Hi everybody, welcome back. This video is going to be a bit more chill, at least visually. I'm going to be talking about the exercise I'm doing in this video and why I think it's one of the most beneficial exercises you can do no matter your art style. So, what you're going to do is find at least 4 different reference images. For simplicity, I found pictures of different statues since they tend to not have tons of colors, and try to draw them with 2, 3, 4, and 5 values. You could theoretically go higher, but I personally believe the exercise loses its value, pun not intended, once you have 6 or more, and you'll see why. Of course, this exercise is focusing on values, so it's best not to overcomplicate things by using images with tons of colors. And also, try and use a hard brush, because using a softer brush will create more values, so it kind of defeats the point of the exercise. Also, you can definitely do this exercise traditionally, but I will be speaking in terms of digital art for this specific video. I'm gonna get straight into the reasons why I love this exercise. Number 1. Problem solving. So much of being an artist is problem solving. I get a lot of questions, and I would love to answer them all, but I can't. Because at a certain point, you will encounter problems that are unique to your reference, skill level, art style, medium, program. You will encounter something that nobody can help you with, or at least not in a timely manner. And that's where you must be creative and find out how to best solve it. And this exercise creates a lot of problems that you must solve. In this first image, for example, there's this big bounce light under the chin that I really love from the original reference, but I only have 2 values to work with. I am forced to choose what the best course of action is. Do I make it black and lose that bounce light completely, or make it white and risk making the image less readable? I chose to make it black. And I think that was the right choice, because despite the bounce light being so bright and beautiful that it's enough to be noticeable, it is still on the darker end of the value spectrum. So I would have to make it black since I'm only working at 2 values. I also love these cheekbones, but it is best to let them go, as defining them with black would be too harsh and it wouldn't communicate the softness of the shadows properly. I encountered similar problems with all these pieces, so I had to make so many choices to make sure my image was readable, and it communicated all the textures in the reference as accurately as possible. You will need to develop the skill to become a better artist. I know mathematically, this might seem easy to solve. Anything that's above a 50% of brightness, you just make white. Anything below, you make black. But emotionally, it is important to see those choices and all the sacrifices you make while making these choices, so you are better prepared to make those choices when working on bigger projects. I am happy to teach people. I've been doing it for years and this channel is all about it. And I don't mean any harm with this, so don't take offense. And don't let this deter you from asking me simple questions. If you have a question, at least 100 other viewers probably have the same one, so never feel bad about having a question. This is just an example of what I'm talking. A few years ago, I made this video about how to easily draw glasses on digital art programs. This is the video right here. I had a comment where someone asked, how do I do this for square glasses? It's okay to have a question like this, but it's even better to get up and experiment. The process was the exact same, but with squares instead of circles. And I believe that with a bit of experimentation, you could find that out, and it will probably make you feel really good and encourage you to experiment even more with tips you learn in the future. Again, I don't want you to be ashamed of having a question like that, or be embarrassed if you can't figure it out. I just want you to remember that you have the ability to experiment. You are an artist. Our whole thing is being creative. So I encourage you to get those creative juices flowing and figure out how to solve problems, create new techniques, and experiment during your process. You can rely on educators like me to help guide you, but you are capable of doing more than you can imagine. And you can't figure out just how much you can do if you don't try to figure things out yourself. This exercise is one of the ways you can do that. And it's a lower risk way of doing that too. It's better to mess up an exercise drawing that took 10 minutes rather than encounter a problem you don't know how to solve 4 hours into a big painting. I get comments sometimes of people saying that they don't want to do the boring art stuff, but there is a reason why we do it, and it's worth it. So remember, problem solving is one of the most powerful skills to develop as an artist, and one of the quickest ways to improve. If you're one of those people that hates the math and the academics, you can still improve by focusing on problem solving. It's not the most optimal way, but it is a way. Let's say instead of doing the studies, you draw fan art of your favorite character, but while drawing them, you realize you don't know how to draw clothing wrinkles too well. You would sit down, watch a video or two, practice on a separate paper or canvas, and then apply what you learned on your original piece. Of course, I would heavily recommend you do studies the academic way, but this is a valid way of learning as well. So number 2, another reason, and the most obvious one of course, is that value studies are just good in general. More important than colors, lights, and shadows, values are the most critical resource you manage in your painting. Values do the heavy lifting. They inform your viewer of everything, what's in focus, what's in the background, what's important. They define the shape of your character, the form, the materials, and the world around them. They create context, clarity, and drama. Value is king when it comes to visual art. This exercise is a good live demonstration of how powerful values are, because you can accomplish so much with so little. With just 2 or 3 shades of gray, you can already communicate form, lighting, and emotion. That's powerful. If your art looks off but you can't figure out why, it might be a value problem. I refer to values as a resource on purpose, because if you're doing digital art, you only get 100 of them. But if you go up 1% or down 1%, those percentages are negligible. So in actuality, you only have 10 of them. You have 10 values to make your painting. So knowing how to control them is key. And speaking of controlling them, the next thing this exercise helps with is something I think will benefit a lot of beginners. If you're a beginner artist who uses too much airbrush, this exercise will help you break that habit. A soft airbrush creates way too many subtle value shifts that you might not even notice. It makes your image look muddy or blurry because you haven't learned how to control value intentionally. This forces you to make deliberate decisions with every stroke. You can't rely on soft gradients to carry the form. You have to build structure and light with confidence. The discipline carries over to more rendered work. Eventually, when you do go back to blending, your shadows and lights will be so much more thoughtful and effective. And hopefully, you'll strike a better balance between soft and hard shadows now that you learned how impactful hard shadows are. There will be moments during this exercise where you'll think, I really wish I could blur this edge or use an airbrush. That's fine. That's supposed to happen. That's one of the lessons you get from this exercise. Yes, this drawing is fine, but a soft shadow for the cheekbone and a soft glow under the chin will elevate it so much more. You will begin to better grasp when and where a softer transition will be most beneficial. It will also make you really good at cell shading. Of course, I just explained the benefits of how I can help people with any art style by teaching them the value of hard and soft shadows, but if you're into cell shading, this will really help you know where to place your shadows. Cell shading relies heavily on knowing exactly where to place sharp, clean shadows to define form and lighting. By limiting yourself to just a few values and thinking critically about where the shadows fall, you train your eye to identify the most important areas to shade without overcomplicating your art. I stopped counting, but this is number 5. It builds visual clarity and discipline. When you're limited to just 2 or 5 values, you start to think like a designer. You're not copying the reference anymore. You're interpreting it. You're learning how to simplify complex information, break it into chunks, and communicate it clearly. That is an essential skill in every kind of art, whether you're doing character design, comic panels, realism. If your art tends to look messy, unfocused, or chaotic, this kind of exercise helps you build discipline and improve your shapes and choices. Okay, speed round. It helps you practice abstraction and simplification. Often beginners get caught up copying every little detail. This exercise forces you to distill complex images into simple shapes and values, which is how you make art readable and strong. Mastering simplification helps you design better characters, scenes, and composition. I feel like a broken record with how I keep bringing up simplification, but if I keep breaking it up, it's because it's super important. Also, it builds muscle memory for consistent shading. Doing these quick subjects repeatedly helps you develop habits of making clear, deliberate value choices, so that shading becomes more natural and less guesswork in your bigger projects. You will also notice, for example, if you use a lot of human subjects, that they tend to have shadows in the same places, and those shadows tend to have the same shapes. Knowing this in the back of your head will make your future drawings a lot more realistic, consistent, and overall just better. This exercise also encourages you to embrace mistakes, and mistakes is in quotes. When values are limited, it's easy to feel stuck or frustrated, but this exercise teaches you to adapt and problem solve creatively rather than obsess over perfection. That mindset is crucial for growth and innovation in art, and it's a good mindset to carry in your improvement journey. Do you want to make a pretty picture every single time? Or do you want to truly improve and branch out of your comfort zone? It's very hard, and I'd say impossible to do both. In my 3 art lives video, I talk about comfort and how it hindered your growth. And if you're a perfectionist, this exercise may make you very uncomfortable. And if you're serious about getting better at art, that's a good thing. By comfort, I mean never challenging yourself, never accepting a different approach or mindset to yours, never trying a different style, brush, or program. Being comfortable in the sense of doing the same thing over and over because it feels natural and easy is, well, comfortable, but it doesn't help you be better at art. And finally, it improves your overall composition skills. Since values guide the viewer's eye, this exercise helps you practice creating strong focal points and balanced layouts through light and dark areas alone without relying on color. I know everyone wants the coloring and rendering video, and I promise you it's coming, but there are so many things we must learn before we get there. Values are extremely important, and this exercise is one of the best ways to help you understand why. We can't even touch colors until we understand values. I mean, you can if you want, but you will see a lot of problems with your work and you won't understand how to solve them because you don't know the problem is the values. So try this exercise out. I promise you won't regret it. You'll notice the things I talked about, the problem solving, the decision making, the places where you truly need to talk the transitions, and then eventually you will see the rest of the benefits I talked about. And eventually you will see the rest of the benefits I talked about show up during the exercise. So be curious, be creative. Thank you for over 10k subs. You guys are genuinely insane. Remember, this advice is for those who want it. You can do whatever you want at the end of the day. So please be kind to each other in the comments. I think I'm done yapping now. Am I? Yeah, I am. See ya.